how about you give us a little bit of an introduction with your name, where you're from, and where people can find you, and a little bit about what you do.
Yes. So my name is Luis. Luis Camejo. I'm from Venezuela originally, but been in the States since 2010. Mm-hmm. I run a podcast studio, which is where we are now. Thank you for coming here and recording this here. I'm super excited. And I've been in content production for about 8 years now. So we've done anything from hype videos to small business videos to now mainly podcasting and fractional content teams. So it's been a fun journey. People can find me in our show, Content is Profit, whatever you listen to podcasts. Mm-hmm. And if you type BizBros online, all one word, I'm sure something will pop up.
B-I-Z.
BizBros. .co, not .com. Those are the fake BizBros.
Okay. How did we meet?
We met at this awesome local event.
Yes.
By chance. Mm-hmm. I think so. I think I came down late, as usual, to... after
I was also late. I arrived like 45 minutes late. I pretty much missed the first half. Okay.
No, I meant like there was like an event. So we did the event and then we came downstairs to like this, it was like almost restaurant / bar. Mm-hmm. And I think you were down there with a couple people from our community. Mm-hmm. I think I just turned around and be like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Luis. Mm-hmm. And then you started telling me your story. I was like, that's so cool. And then we ordered food. We were all in a table and they kicked us out. But I couldn't get my food because you were so interesting. And we just started talking about your movement, what you want to do and your life. And your life has gone through 1,000 things too. And you're like, this life experience is leading me to this point. And I thought that was so cool that you released your first episode from the streets overseas. We were like, I'm just going to have a conversation about love with this random person. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was so cool. So that's what I remember.
Thank you.
Is that accurate?
No, it's so interesting to hear your perspective. I love it. I was downstairs and I was actually waiting to talk to Frances. I don't know if Frances was one of the hosts. And I was waiting to see her and say goodbye to her. And then I think a lot of you all who had helped and organized and sponsored the event were kind of hanging out afterwards. Alicia, Sanfilippo, she was so sweet. Her and Alex are really awesome, but she had like 2 drink tickets. And so she gave them to me and I got a kombucha from the bar and was like sitting and just talking to you guys. And you are awesome. You and your brother, also Luis. Yeah. So I was like, I have to know about this. I don't even know if I told you both of my brothers' names are Jonathan.
No way.
But one blood, one stepbrother.
Okay. And so that makes more sense. Well, my brother does look adopted, so, maybe.
I kind of assumed you guys had the same situation. I was like, oh, you both are blood brothers. This is amazing. Just hearing the stories that you were sharing with me, even just about your kids and your wife and everything, and just seeing your heart, I was like, oh, this person is amazing. Like I love people with incredible hearts, and I think as soon as we started talking, I could just sense that from you and just how big and amazing your heart is. And
Thank you.
So I'm so glad that we've had a chance to stay connected, and you've been incredibly helpful in helping me, in telling me to get an editor. That was wonderful advice. So thank you.
I meant us, but it's okay. We still love you. No, I'm kidding.
You did.
No, it's okay. Like, we live in a world of abundance. I joke, by the way, and it's so cool. It's so cool to see your platform, being developed and you growing with it, and you connecting with so many awesome people because of it. And what a cool possibility. I mean, we're here recording in our studio. Like, that's awesome.
I know.
That's so cool.
Yes, we are here in your studio. I didn't mean it for
the plug. No, I'm just saying this is so cool.
For my 10 followers.
You were so nice to come here, because I was like, yeah, we'll have to do one on your remote location. Yes. Part 2.
One day I'll go to Venezuela, and that would be amazing.
No, we don't want to go there. We want to stay here.
Damn it. I do.
You do? Okay.
Okay. So I believe that love looks like something tangible. So what is the most powerful act of love that you've ever witnessed, and how did it inspire you to love more deeply?
I left home when I was 15, about 20 years ago, right? Venezuela, yeah. Dream was to play professional soccer. And I got to an opportunity to go play in Italy. And at the time, I was 14, about to turn 15. And I remember just being super excited to have that opportunity and to go live abroad. The detail here was my parents were not coming with me. They were putting me on a plane to a country that they probably visited maybe a couple times in their lifetime. Somebody random was going to pick me up in an airport over there that they met once. They didn't speak the language. I was going to go drive for hours to this like little town with that person. And in my eyes, I was just like, this is a great opportunity. It's fun. And now that I'm a dad, I'm like, what the hell? Like how? I mean, leaving your 14-year-old in the hands of, I guess, destiny, right, in a way, for that kid to go pursue his dream with, some argue with like today that a 14-year-old cannot make this kind of decisions, right? To me, I think that was a selfless act of love. Just, hey, this is your dream that you've talked about since you're a little kid. We've worked so hard to get to this point.
Yeah.
And to let me go at that age to a completely like unfamiliar environment. Some might call it reckless. Some might call it trust. Some might call it, I think as soon as I started, you asked that question, I was like, that's the moment I feel. And that's like just like the love that they have for me, the trust that, all these things play.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could do that today with my kid right now. I'm like,
I was just about to ask, how does that influence your parenting?
I mean, massively, right? My parents have always supported me and loved me unconditionally. I've made some crazy mistakes, and they're there for me almost every single night. I talk to them almost every couple of nights, right?
They're local, right?
They're not. They're actually in Venezuela. So,
okay.
Yeah, hopefully one day they'll be here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give them a call every night. I'm walking the dog, either my dad or my mom. I switch the days. They live together. They could do better at talking to each other, but because they're like, oh, tell me about this thing. And I'm like, I talked to my mom about this last night. Like, what the hell? You guys don't talk. But no, they're awesome. They're an amazing couple, a great example. And, I look up to them. And a lot of decisions I make with my kids is based on, what I've seen with them. So
I love that. That's such a wonderful way of just kind of influencing you that stays with you all throughout your childhood. And then now you get to be a parent that invests in your children's dreams like that. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, hopefully, right? Like I've seen the benefits of it. I like my life. I'm very fortunate and very grateful that I get to do what I do and live in the place that I live. I think I live in the best country in the world. Some people might argue that one, but yeah, the opportunities I've had in my life has been started really way before that. But that was like the moment that I was like, okay, you go, you fly, you do your thing. And that requires a shit ton of love. Sorry, can we?
Yes.
Okay. Can we curse? So yeah, my English is not very good looking some days.
But the cursing on point.
Perfect. Yeah, it just requires a ton of it, right? To be able to do that and let go and trust and, continue that.
I'm so glad that has influenced your life and your parenting the way that it has. So what is the biggest, I hate to use the word fail, but I'll say learning experience you've had from love, and what did you learn from it? I
mean, I could think about 1,000 with Katie, my wife, right? I know you want very specific ones. We had a fight recently where I felt very disrespected, I think. And I raised my voice in the argument. She has been a blessing in my life in many ways as well. And I think I personally let little things kind of get in the way, and the heat of the moment, the time where it was later at night. It was about something that I was definitely guilty of. And, but I think in that specific moment, I let my pride get in the way, in a way, like my ego. So like, I'm always the one, saying I'm sorry first, or like little things like that. And then we didn't talk to each other, living in the same house for a couple of days, which is crazy. And one morning I was like, let me flip this. I can't, like, this cannot be. And I started writing, like, what do I like? What do I admire about Katie? What are the positive things? And as soon as I was like in the fifth thing, I was like, what the F I'm doing? Like, what, why?
Yeah.
Right. And, my brother said a thing as I was like kind of sharing that experience with him. It's like, it's not you versus her. It's like you guys against the problem.
Absolutely. Yep.
So recently that has been like one of the biggest fails, because I know with that I hurt her. She's way bigger than me, and she didn't get into her in a way, because like when I came in, obviously we talked about it, but for me it was like, why is my ego getting in the way of like this relationship? Like, that's just trivial. That's solvable, right? And I think it was a mix of things, right? Being tired, maybe a little sleep deprived. It was just a thing that kept happening. It was a thing that it was my fault, that she had all the right to say, and and I think I was just hiding behind an excuse, to be completely honest. So I wrote it a letter. I was like, I think saying it in person, I might maybe be a wall. So I just tried a new thing, and I just wrote it out. I wrote, how I felt, why I felt that way, that I was sorry, and I would like us to move forward. And we had a great conversation right after. And I think, after 15 years of being together, like, it's kind of crazy. It's like, wow, like that still happens, and it still happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, going through my head in different scenarios, and really, I want to be with her. So that's, we need to work on it. Like, we are a team.
Yeah.
That was pretty recent. That was like last week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you for sharing something so vulnerable, especially because it's so fresh and involves your marriage. But I'm so glad to hear that you tried something new, when it comes to like writing the letter, that you even were writing out, all the reasons why, and that kind of like snapped you back into it. And that you even have people in your corner that are able to offer up the wisdom of, it's you guys against the problem. It's not once you make it you versus the person.
I'll lose.
You'll lose every time.
Yeah, 100%.
And I don't mean that in the sense of you'll lose against her in an argument. I mean, like, you all will end up losing the connection, which is all that really matters. I mean, who cares about who wins a fight and loses a fight? Yeah. Losing the connection is 100%. The most important thing in your marriage. And when you're looking at it from the perspective that you got to of like, really, I value this person, so fuck this problem, that's when you end up reconnecting and valuing that connection over the issues. So I'm so glad that after 15 years, you guys are still learning and prioritizing each other over everything else. It's so important.
Yeah, 100%.
What is the most meaningful way that you've shown love to someone, and what do you hope that others can learn from that experience? That
I've shown love to someone. We're just talking about love languages, right? And I think like understanding that on your partner, your family is super important. To me, I didn't really understand with Katie for the longest time. And for her, like, little acts of service, like we were talking a little bit behind cameras, like for her, me being on time, it's like the best thing that I could do for a relationship, right? Doesn't matter the big present, doesn't matter like, hey, I was 5 minutes late because I'm working in this thing for our future. Doesn't matter. Like, so understanding that, I think it's good, and adapting and making sure that we have that awareness to be able to do it. Yeah. So most of our fights are because I'm not there on time. So I'm like, it took me a while to get it. Then I'm like I will have the argument of like, well, I'm Hispanic. It's my culture. I'm always late. If you want me there at 5, ask me to be there at 4:30. I'll be there at 5, right? And it's like to the point that, it was like to the minute. And to me, like, it bothered me so much, right? Sometimes it still does, right? I'm like, oh, it's just 1 minute. But like in her world, that's very important. So it could be a little thing like that, but that shows the respect for, her point of view or, the thing that they believe in, right? it just helps me level up, right? It helps me. So maybe the biggest is the little thing that you do every single day to make sure that that continues to happen, right? It's giving space to, is maybe just listening and not giving advice. And those are all little things that happen every single day, right? For my kids is being there present with them. Like when I get home, you know, I get home normally at 5:30. They go to bed, you know, between 7:30 and 8. Those 2.5 hours, it's with them, right? It's like not being on the phone. And, you know, we're all guilty sometimes on the phone, or there's an email, there's these things that come in. Just being aware of, hey, they're not going to be this age anymore, right? I got to be there for them. Like, we got to sit down and read the book. We got to sit down and do this. And I feel like those little things add up to being the big thing. It's like, what are they going to remember? Are they going to remember, oh, Dad was always working? For what? Or, oh, I had the great time every time my dad came home. I was so excited that he's here because we're going to play for, you know, whatever time. So to me, I think those little things are super important.
It's interesting because it sounds like in both of those, it's, I'll say, sacrifice of your time, right? For Katie, it's being on time, even if it's just like literally that 1 minute, or with your kids, it's still the time. And so it sounds like time, and it's funny how those things work out, right? Because like you said, for you, you're like, time's not as like being on time, or, you know, it's not as meaningful. So it's interesting how sometimes the things that are not personally important to us are the things that with our loved ones end up being the things that we, it kind of feels like a sacrifice because it may not feel as important to us, but to the people that we love, that's what they need the most, you know? And that's a strength of relationships, is kind of finding that balance and what matters to you and what do I need to adjust to tell you that I love you by showing you when I make the things that you say are important to you, important to me. You know? So
100%. I mean, on the other side, it's like, for me, every time Katie says, oh, thank you for this, or like shows some kind of gratitude, like that I didn't ask for, right? Like yesterday I shared like big news on like this event that's going to happen next week. It was something very unexpected, but super cool, could change things for us in a meaningful way. And I was sharing that, and as soon as she got home, the first thing that she says like, oh, so excited for you. Which I know, by the way, that she doesn't really care at all. Like, she doesn't even know what it is. But she's like, I'm so excited that you guys got that meeting and And I was like, oh, like, it just felt so good. And I've told her many times, I'm like, that's my love language. I like gratitude and like, you know, say those things. It means so much because, like you said earlier, also with my background, it can be very lonely. So that huge win, that could be a huge win, you share with somebody that maybe that doesn't have the context. And for them, it's like, whatever. And then you're like celebrating with yourself, giving yourself a high five. And then for your partner to be there for you, again, those little things like you said, we learn to recognize it. But if I don't tell her exactly how, you know, I respond to those things, it's really hard for her to know, and vice versa, right?
I'm really glad that you all are having those conversations and both have the self-awareness to be able to express it to each other and kind of.
We're working on it. It took us about 15 years, but we're working on it. We're getting better at it.
You're getting there. You're doing it. That's what matters.
Better. Yeah.
So I love this question because this one for me is like, this is a hard hitter, right? It's, I really want it to be something personal that you're truly trying to work on. So in what way can you commit to growing in love more?
I think listening and really paying attention to, more than listening, like almost like observing, like what are those cues? Words matter, right? So sometimes we're in the heat of the moment and we say something and it affects more than we think it does. So just being aware of that. Obviously, everything that we talked about has been like super recent in their relationship. So that's what like top of mind with like those little things that mean so much for that other person, but maybe for you, like you just take for granted, or you're not just really familiar because it's not in your scale of importance in a way. But it's like, how can we meet in the middle, right? How can we be like, where's a place where we both like feel like really happy to do whatever we need to do, right? So that has been lately what I've been like super actively looking for, is like, okay, I know that you're not gonna meet me all the way, so like I've told you for years that tell me 30 minutes before doesn't work, right? You're not gonna do it. for some reason, it's really hard for me to get there on time, right? Because I always like to squeeze the most amount of things in that time, right? It could be
I'm the same way.
It could be I'm like, I have 5 minutes. Okay, I'll do this in the last 5 minutes, and you're like a minute late, and then that minute adds up to the traffic, and that, it's those things, right? It's like I try to squeeze it. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm just a minute late. Okay, well that's a win, right? Or, but in their mind, it's not. So it's like, okay, how can we like make sure that we do that? So in my specific case, it could be like, okay, I'm gonna end up my day 10 minutes before that, right? So it's like my absolute last is this, and just having that conversation and being super open, right, to those things. It's like, I do feel this way, like expressing those feelings. I feel anger when you say this thing, right? Or I feel really happy when you say this thing. And is there a way that we can create this habit of doing those things? As simple as we've noticed that if we have a conversation of that type after 7 p.m. that we're both exhausted, right? Yeah. Kids just went to bed, blah, blah, blah. Like we tend to get aggressive towards each other. That it causes more friction than anything else. So we're like, new rule. We don't talk about those things at 7 p.m. We have a share note that we put on our phone and it goes there. And then during the weekend, in the day, we talk about these things, right? That's after coffee. Hey, new rule. And it's been funny because like this last couple of weeks, we've been like very aware of that, right? It's been like, no, that energy, walk out. Like goes both ways, but when there's like a clear agreement of like, okay, what is our course of action? Because if we continue down this path, it's gonna get ugly, which it did, right? We can fix it, right? And believe me, it's helped so much. Nothing but positiveness after 7 p.m.
Good. I love that. So then is it just that you all are, I guess let's say you, I can't speak on behalf of Katie, but I guess you're just kind of committing to furthering that as you're going on, like just kind of getting really clear on the things that feed into your relationship, growing, being healthy, happy, like getting very clear and holding to those things.
100%. I mean, holding on to those commitments, right? Whatever those are. If for some reason, they don't go with the values, it's like having the conversations, like how can we get them there? Or like what is the new agreement that we're going to do to move forward? Because people change, right? And situations change, right? And our discussions get pretty heated to the point that I look at things that we're like really mad at each other and we're like, no, we look like an Italian family. I mean, we're not Italians, but either we're not Italians, but it gets pretty heated, and then 2 seconds later we're kissing passionately. But anyways, so commitment is to start being more aware of those things, not being so much in autopilot, because when we get to that point it can get really ugly really fast.
That's definitely a big one. Because like you said, I think the autopilot, that's such an interesting word that you use, because that one does kind of allow you to not think. So when I hear that, I hear just bringing awareness to the situations as well as that commitment, So I love that. I think it's wonderful, especially after 15 years of marriage, that you all are still continually and actively seeking ways to feed into your marriage and grow and get stronger and deepen your love. So
also, I don't think I'll find somebody crazy enough to date me after if we ever break up. So I was like, no, just don't leave me.
I'm rooting for this commitment and for you guys. Yes.
Thank you.
Let's see. So to wrap it up, I am trying to start a global love movement. Will you join me?
Absolutely. What do we gotta do?
You're just gonna keep doing what you're doing. Keep loving.
Go.
Keep.
Awesome.
You know what? What you can do is keep to your commitment. Keep being aware. Keep committing to your love with Katie, with your kids, with your family. Just keep loving more. That's literally all I want everyone to do, is to just challenge themselves to love more. So
awesome.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Yay!
It's a wrap up.
Yes.
Bam.